Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the CD guy, Johnny Z here. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel, and today I'm going to be taking a look at classic metal albums that turned 40 in 2022, counting down the top 10 greatest metal albums from 1982. Kicking off the list here with my number 10, I'm going to go with Restless and Wild by Accept, and this is the follow-up to Breaker from 1981. It's also regarded as their breakthrough commercial album, although I think Breaker is fantastic as well. And one thing that I found interesting, it's also the first Accept record in which Dirk Schneider sings on every song on the record, so that's really cool as well. This is a great album in my opinion, classic Accept, with great tracks on here like Fast as a Shark, Restless and Wild, Neon Nights, Flash Rockin' Man is great as well, then Princess of the Dawn to close things out, a great album closer. A fantastic effort here by Accept on their fourth studio album, coming in at number 10 here on the list. I'm going to go with Restless and Wild. Next at number 9, I'm going to go with Iron Fist by Motorhead, and this is the final of the classic lineup featuring Lemmy, Fast Eddie Clarke, and Filthy Animal Taylor. It's classic Motorhead through and through here, following the same formula as their previous releases, but still yielding some great tracks in my opinion, such as the title track, Go to Hell, I'm the Doctor, and Shut It Down. Lots of really great underrated gems here on this underappreciated record by the band. Coming in at number 9 here on the list, I'm going to go with Iron Fist by Motorhead. Following that up with my number 8, I'm going to go with Black Metal by Venom, their sophomore studio album and one of the most important records in the extreme metal subgenre. And this album really does see the band beginning to come into their own more and more and grow into their extreme sound with elements of speed metal, thrash metal, and black metal as well, with some standout tracks here such as the title track, To Hell and Back, Buried Alive, Countless Bathory, and Sacrifice as well. This album would also prove to be highly influential, influencing many bands from the thrash and black metal subgenres alike. So, extremely important record here by Venom, released in 1982, coming in at number 8 here on the list. I'm going to go with Black Metal. For my number 7, I'm going to go with Diver Down by Van Halen, the follow-up to Fair Warning from 1981, and, this is prime Van Halen here, delivering with another great record, in my opinion. Although 5 out of the 12 tracks on here are covers, which would eventually draw the ire of the Van Halen brothers, who both agreed that they didn't want the band to become one of the world's biggest cover bands, and, weren't really satisfied with the fact that nearly half the tracks on here were covers. But aside from that, the tracks on here are fantastic, in my opinion, with some great ones, some standouts for me, being Oh Pretty Woman, Secrets, Hang 'Em High, Intruder, Cathedral, and Dancing in the Streets. This record also features an incredible guitar performance here by Eddie Van Halen, proving once again to be one of the all-time best. So, that said, coming in at number 7 here, I'm going to go with Diver Down, a great record here by prime Van Halen. Coming in at number 6, let's go with Live Evil by Black Sabbath from the Mob Rules tour. A great live album featuring the classic Mob Rules lineup, that being Ronnie James Dio, Geezer Butler, Tony Iommi, and Vinny Appice on the drums. A great lineup here that sound fantastic in a live setting. And of course, on this album, you get to hear some of Dio's versions of some of the classic Ozzy tracks, that being, Children of the Grave, War Pigs, NIB, Paranoid, and Iron Man as well, which is really great. Dio does a great job with the Ozzy material, but really stands out when doing some of the material from Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules, such as Neon Nights, Children of the Sea, Heaven and Hell, The Mob Rules, and The Sign of the Southern Cross. Just really great stuff here. Again, the band sound fantastic. Dio sounds incredible as well. One of his finest hours during his tenure with Black Sabbath, in my opinion. So, that said, coming in at number 6, I'm going to go with one of the best live albums ever released from Black Sabbath here, that being Live Evil. Moving on now into the top 5, coming in at number 5, I'm going to go with Under the Blade, the debut studio album by Twisted Sister, and even though it's their debut, the band had been one of the longest tenured club bands out there, unable to secure a record deal for a long time, finally getting their opportunity here around 1982 for Under the Blade. A great debut record here, the world's introduction to Twisted Sister, and the awesome voice of Dee Snider as well, with some great tracks on here like What You Don't Know, Bad Boys, Rock and Roll, Run for Your Life, Shoot 'Em Down, Destroyer is just so heavy, the classic title track Under the Blade as well, Tear It Loose, and then Day of the Rocker to close things out. A great album here by the band, and Twisted Sister really are a group that never made a bad song up until their final record, that being Love Is for Suckers, but those first 4 albums are just untouchable in my opinion, and this of course kicked off that great streak by the band here. Awesome work by Twisted Sister with Under the Blade from 1982, their debut album after years of being a club band, securing a record deal and making the most of it here with this great debut album. Kicking us off in the top 5, I gotta go with Under the Blade by Twisted Sister. In the follow-up to Animal Magnetism from 1980, the Scorpions delivered here with one of their best-known records, Blackout. My number 4 here on the list. with some incredible tracks on here, such as the title track to kick things off, Can't Live Without You, No One Like You, one of their most famous tracks as well, Now, Dynamite, Arizona, and China White as well. Also, you have When the Smoke is Going Down to close things out. Just a great, great album here, really from top to bottom. Fantastic vocals by Klaus Meine, who had to undergo surgery to repair his voice. He had damaged his voice while writing the tracks here for this album, and it was unclear whether or not he was going to be able to record for Blackout. So there are actually some demos out there of Don Dokken on lead vocals here, demoing some of the tracks for Blackout, but eventually Klaus Meine would return to the band and would be able to record, so Don Dokken is only credited with backing vocals here on this album, but that would have been interesting for sure to hear Don Dokken on lead vocals for this classic record. But again, a great performance by Klaus Meine, who had made a full recovery at this point. So that said, coming in at number 4, I'm going to go with Blackout. Great, great record here by the Scorpions, probably one of their best known, featuring some of their all-time great tracks. Breaking into the top 3 here for my number 3, I'm going to go with Kiss and Creatures of the Night. A great bounce-back album for the band after the disaster that was The Elder, but this album really did fall on deaf ears when it was released in North America, seeing that by this point they pretty much lost all of their North American audience, but it was big in other parts of the world, such as Australia and South America, so that's good. A real classic record here by the band, and wouldn't sound out of place with a lot of these tracks on some of those classic 70s albums, with awesome material on here, such as the title track, Creatures of the Night, Saint and Sinner, Rock and Roll Hell, Danger, I Love It Loud, which is a classic, but a bit overplayed in my opinion, but a classic nonetheless. Also on here, you have Killer and I Still Love You, which is very Scorpions-esque in my opinion. Then to close things out, War Machine, one of the heaviest Gene Simmons tracks. Just a great, great song here, and an awesome album closer as well, with a killer riff. So when it comes down to it, this is one of the best Kiss albums in my opinion, even though it really did fall on deaf ears in North America when it was first released in 1982. You can see on the cover here, the 4 guys, that being Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Eric Carr, and Ace Frehley, who appears on the album cover, but doesn't actually play on the record, instead replaced by Vinnie Vincent on lead guitar, who does a great job here, but Ace appearing on the cover nonetheless. A great, great album by the band, pretty underrated and overlooked in my opinion, and again, really does sound like any one of those classic albums from the 70s. So that said, coming in at number 3 here, I'm going to go with 1982's Creatures of the Night by Kiss. Before I get into my top 2, I do have a handful of honorable mentions to give out. So that said, going to give some special recognition here to Speak of the Devil by Ozzy, Saints and Sinners by Whitesnake, Abominog by Uriah Heep, Straight Between the Eyes by Rainbow, and Battle Hymns by Manowar. All great albums from 1982 that turned 40 this year, but I can only fit 10 on the list. Now, for my top 2, I was absolutely torn between Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden and Scream for Vengeance by Judas Priest. I wasn't sure which to put at number 2 and which to put at number 1. I mean, these are 2 of the most important metal albums of all time here, both marking the bands in their prime. Of course, on Number of the Beast, you see the introduction of Bruce Dickinson to the band, which did take Maiden to the next level, but also here you have Priest expanding on their already great catalog here, continuing to do some of the best work of their careers. So it was really tough, and I was really torn right down the middle. I could have gone either way when putting together my top 2, but I wasn't sure what to do. So instead, I deferred to you guys. I put out a poll a couple days ago asking your opinions here, whether you preferred Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden or Screaming for Vengeance by Judas Priest, and the results of the poll are in. By the way, the poll is still active, so if you want to go and share your opinions, please go ahead, but I'm going to share the current results of the poll right now. 44% said Screaming for Vengeance by Judas Priest, and 56% said Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden. So that said, coming in at number 2 here, I'm going to go with Screaming for Vengeance by Judas Priest, as per the way you guys voted here. A great, great album, but I'm going to put it at number 2 here today. Again, it's prime Judas Priest doing incredible work with some awesome tracks on here like Electric Eye, one of my favorite tracks in the Priest catalog, period. Riding on the Wind is great as well. Bloodstone, Take These Chains is very Dokken-esque, I think. Screaming for Vengeance is an incredible title track, right? You Got Another Thing Coming is a classic, but let's not pretend like it's anywhere near the best song on this album. Also on this record, you have Fever, Devil's Child, and Prisoner of Your Eyes. Just great, great work here by the band. Rob Halford on lead vocals with some of his best vocal performances ever on this record. And of course, you have the guitar duo of K.K. Downing and Glenn Tipton, who are absolutely doing a fantastic job firing on all cylinders here. Great, great work by Priest, but they're going to come in at number 2 here on the list with Screaming for Vengeance, like you guys voted, with 44% of the vote. Well, like you guys voted, coming in at number 1 is Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden, the best metal album from 1982 that turns 40 this year in 2022. An incredible record here by the band, their 3rd studio album, and like I said, the first, with Bruce Dickinson on lead vocals, really taking the band to the next level. It's also the final to feature Clive Burr on the drums, to be replaced by Nico McBrain in time for their next record, Peace of Mind, but he goes out with an incredible performance on this album, with some classic tracks on here like Invaders, Children of the Damned, The Prisoner, 22 Acacia Avenue, Number of the Beast, Run to the Hills, and then of course you have Hallowed Be Thy Name, which is in my opinion the greatest metal song of all time, an absolute essential to close things out. A great record here, produced by Martin Birch. It's classic Maiden through and through, and would kickstart their string of legendary albums with Dickinson on lead vocals all the way up to Seventh Son of a Seventh Son in 1988. So, great work here by the band. My number one on the list, as voted on by you, is Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden. So that wraps up my list, counting down the top 10 greatest metal albums from 1982, turning 40 this year, which should be visible right over here. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel down below. We are less than 100 subscribers away from hitting the 1,000 subscribers mark, so if you have not subscribed yet to the channel and you'd like to do so, please go ahead. It is greatly appreciated. Also, be sure to turn on the bell for notifications to be notified of a new upload. And let me know down in the comments below, what are some of your favorite metal albums from 1982 that did not make the list? I'd be very interested in hearing your opinions, so let me know all that good stuff down in the comments. And until next time, it's the CD guy, Johnny Z, signing off. Take care, everybody.